Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Legends of Zegan. I'm so excited. We've got another amazing legend on deck here today in the studio. So without further ado, I'm excited to present you all to my great friend, none other than Sophat Chev. Sophat, how are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good, my man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, bro. Always good.
Always good to see you.
Always great.
Always love being around you.
No, man. The energy is going to be fantastic.
Your vibe
today.
is tremendous, man.
Nah, your vibe is tremendous, bro. We're just going to do this all episode, just complimenting each other for an hour.
We'll get nowhere. Grab your lattes.
Yeah, so the reason I invited you on the podcast today, Sophat, is because I am so just madly in love with what you're up to, man. You're always grinding. You're always just going the next level to accomplish something amazing. Every time I see you, every time I talk to you, you've got some amazing new project that you're working on. You've started a business. You're doing videos on LinkedIn. Like it's never ending for you, man. So I want to ask you, when you wake up in the morning, what do you say to yourself?
Where did I put my glasses is the first thing, because I usually just misplace them the night before. That's always my first issues. I love the question. I'm a big believer in that your day starts off the way you want it to, not the circumstances around you. And so I just choose to embrace content early on in the early morning stages that aligns with, what I'm feeling for the day, the month, the year.
Yeah.
And for us, at Five Moss, it's a heavy grind and it takes discipline. And with that, I tend to gravitate towards self-affirmations that just set me in the right place.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Self-affirmation is a great way to start. Now, self-affirmation, like you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am amazing. I am the best looking guy on this planet. Or are you listening to like podcasts or anything like that kind of, what are your self-affirmations?
Yeah, I try to steer away from fallacies like that. A good-looking guy tends to not work too well on my side of the fence. But
bro, you're the best looking guy in this room right now.
I beg to differ. At least that's what my kids tell me. But no, it a lot of the content, the affirmations are typically around having concepts of ideas that I know are in my grasp, whether the external physicalities represent them or not. But it's maintaining faith and belief that the goals that I'm striving to achieve are already here, and it's just a combination of time and energy to match itself to when those things actually manifest. And so I typically will consume content that keeps me aligned with that, and it just gets my juices flowing. Do the cold plunge in the morning. That really gets the blood working.
Oh,
and
we got a Joe Rogan 2.0 up in this room right now.
It works tremendously.
You cold plunge, really?
I do. I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
I'm not very good at it. I think I lasted maybe 10 seconds my first try. It was very tough. It was probably the most painful 10 seconds for me of deliberate experience. But I feel like I can pull a couple of minutes and kind of stretch it out a little bit.
Wow.
And it gets the morning going. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've heard amazing things about doing a cold plunge spa, like a steam room, or
yes.
using cold plunge, or a mixture of the two, right? But interesting. So you would highly recommend to people? Does it wake you up in the morning? Does it?
It does so tremendously. It's a shock factor is what it does.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
It gets a mental state of clarity in the moment fairly quickly, just because you've got this physical experience that kind of pauses your mind. I think if you're a lot like me, if you're consuming content, and we live in a world obviously of heavy consumption and a lot of content thrown at us in many directions, it's easy to maintain that state because subconsciously your mind wants to go to checking reels and getting updates and checking in on people.
All the socials,
100%.
and just all the garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff we're making is not garbage, but it's
this is legendary.
No, it's
100%.
Hey,
yes,
yes,
you like that?
love that. But I agree with that. I think that it's so important to try to peel yourself away from that, and it's hard. It's so hard because especially as we're using social platforms to market our businesses and stuff, you're just, you're walking into a bunch of stuff like, okay, now I gotta, it's like a hoarder's house, right? Where you're just trying to navigate your way through and trying to get to where you want to be, but you got all this noise and stuff around you. So how do you navigate it? Like, how do you avoid it? You just don't look at it? I mean, I assume you're using social media, but how do you avoid not like getting stuck in the what do they call it? Doom scrolling?
Is that what they call it?
I think that's what they call it.
I will admit I'm a little disconnected, so I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not in
that's
the
good.
know
That's
with the
good.
lingo. So
that is good to be disconnected.
You're gonna have to help me out. I'm pretty bad there. It's a. I've always felt, at least for me, and I'm still learning this as I go, right? There's always stuff that I'm learning about myself, and you're trying to correct some past fallacies, and you alter, your thought process, and when you can kind of monitor what the output of those changes are, and if they're good results, then you know that you're probably onto something, right? And so one of the things that I've learned, just kind of around that concept over time, is discipline it's a hard choice.
Yes.
So just choosing to wake up in the morning and not scrolling, but choosing to wake up, and I choose affirmations, a cold plunge, a workout over everything else. That's a choice. Do I want to do that? No. Cold plunges suck. Working out sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing fun about that at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like there's just nothing fun
You'd
about
rather
those two
be
things.
just still in your bed,
Absolutely.
laying on your phone on the side.
I want to be under
scrolling.
my sheets with the phone and just doing this action, just the swiping action, like, for the first half of the morning, right? And you get your little dopamine hit and you're rocking and rolling. Next thing you look at the clock and you're like, oh, shoot, 2 hours. And now you're scrambling.
Yeah.
So it's a choice. I think the easiest place to start, even though it's not that easy, is to make a deliberate choice that you're choosing something that is for you. And it's got to be for you and nothing else, no one else.
I like that.
Yeah. And that could be something as simple as 5 minutes of quiet time in the morning, little meditation.
Meditation,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Do you meditate?
I used to.
Okay.
I don't as much anymore.
Sure.
I used to meditate to calm the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned over time is that with specific triggers, you can actually calm the mind at any moment in time. And so it's a state that can be achieved. And much like, pursuing a dream, I think the chase of a goal, an idea, it's a journey, and oftentimes when you obtain your intended goal, you might not feel that sense of euphoria that maybe one had imagined, right? And so this is no different. To find tranquility, to find peace, for me, it's just I choose to have that place of mind in the very moment, and I just take myself there. So it's no different in that the vision that we kind of have for our business. Feeling a sense of that attainment now, it changes my state, it changes my relationships, it causes me to kind of have conversations in a different context, and it scales. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
totally
that
does.
thought process creates this scaling effect, and people can feel it, partners can sense it, and there's actually something real to that. So
I love that. I think that's the first thing you said was, right, it's a choice. And we wake up every day and we make choices all day long until we go to sleep. And I think that starting off your day with a positive, good choice to do something, like you said, also for yourself, which I think oftentimes, many people out there, the first thing that they do, get up and, they have to start taking care of their kids. You know what I mean? And even if you just set aside 5 minutes, like you said, for yourself, right? Do that. I think that's so important, and something that I love this, because you're giving, you're my like my spirit coach here, because I'm coming away with already some amazing good
counseling
nuggets.
session.
Yeah, no, it's fan. You're my therapist now. So you also talked about discipline, and I want to understand from you, how did you inherently get this discipline? Has it been something that you've trained over the years? Like, do you have I want to ask, do you have any martial arts experience?
I trained a little bit in high school, and then a little bit out of high school when I was in college. Did a little bit of jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of in the phase where it was like the thing. And
everybody was
into
mm-hmm,
it, and I will say that consuming and embracing martial arts does create a change mentally and physically in you, and that change can be a sense of confidence or just an air of calmness, but that element can transfer into other avenues within your life, right? And so you can use that discipline within business, and you actually see I've got a lot of business partners that from time to time, when we get a chance to not talk business, their hobbies include such things as martial arts or rock climbing or something that requires mental discipline, right, with some physicality. I'm a big believer in that. A lot of entrepreneurs have this crazy outlet. It's like you almost have to have a crazy outlet of some sort.
I would agree, and that's interesting. So obviously martial arts, I think, maybe played a little bit of a role in your discipline, but do you think it's just you were born with it? Do you think it's something that your parents passed down to you?
I think so. I think there's a little bit of that. I'm a big believer in that your surroundings and the elements that are around you are going to influence you to kind of think and behave a certain way. My dad, who sought refuge here in the U.S. During what was a tremendous civil war in Cambodia, coming out here, him and my mom and myself, they didn't have anything, right? So we were brought here as refugees, and there was a pocket in the late 70s and early 80s where a lot of Southeast Asian families who kind of came over looking for refuge here in the U.S. There was a community, and there was a sense of oneness, and I think my dad, for himself, wanted more for our family, and he, from what I saw at an early age, he was spending more time away from us, while other kids, which were my buddies at the time, their dads were at home, and I didn't understand at the time, but it was my dad. You really just putting in hours and hours of work to save up, and he was able to get us out of a kind of community, which I grew up. I loved it. Probably not the best place in the world, but it was one where I had a childhood that I kind of grew up from. But my dad was able to kind of move us out from that environment and get us into a place that kind of elevated, schoolings, and we're, around a different, community, if that makes any sense. And so, and that's happened for as long as I can remember. And so just kind of seeing that drive, I think, probably subconsciously instilled a little bit of that, in me, and both my parents are extremely strict. And growing up, we were not allowed to do many things at all.
Sure. And did you have chores and stuff that you had to do?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
All the time?
Oh, all the time. My mom had a knack of just making me feel guilty if I didn't do the dishes after dinner. She was really good at it, so.
So you're really good at doing the dishes?
I was really good at doing the dishes,
yeah.
but I was very disciplined.
Okay. Well, shout out to your parents then for
Absolutely.
Instilling that in you, because now you've been able to carry that into, who you are today, right? And obviously, a entrepreneur, successful business owner, somebody who's just always driven. And I do want to talk about your business, which I'm so fascinated by because it's so cool. If those of you who don't know, Sophat and I actually used to work together. That's how we met. And we used to work in the technology field together. And we had the best time because we both, we were, believers in technology, but more so we just like to, just to hang out and connect. And you were always just trying to level up. I love video games, and I love that analogy of just leveling up. So with 5 Moss, you you started out. How did you start out? I don't want to spoil it. I want you to tell this story, but how did you start out? How did you come to this idea of starting Five Moss?
Yeah, I think it's, for me, I've always felt like Five Moss was just a combination of an itch that needed to get scratched and just surroundings of others that have found success in entrepreneurship. And so naturally, you know, wanting to have something, you know, to kind of be in the likes of those that were around me at the time, and they still are, very much so, and very much still, you know, mentors that I look up to just tremendously. I mean, you know, I'm very, very grateful for their presence. But for me, entrepreneurship, you know, started pretty early on in recognizing that, you know, the amount of time and energy that I put forth into this entity that we work for, you know, a company, right? Name any company. That same amount of energy is the same amount of energy for me to go build a company. It's no different. I mean, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. It's no different. And so I think when I recognize that the difference is just where I'm expelling and expanding, what's the word? Expelling my energy.
Yeah. You're pushing it out there.
Yeah.
I think expelling is it's a good word.
Where I'm spending my time and energy, I noticed that there were different outcomes achieved. And so, you know, the question became, could I do that in a business? And what would the outcomes look like? The reality is, I don't know. But it was a question that I don't want to feel a sense of regret not knowing. And that's always kind of been in the back of my mind for so long. It's, if I'm not going to start now, I'm never going to start. And I'm a big believer, you know, whether you're an old man like me.
Oh, man, bro, get out of here. Get out of here.
And you're just starting off, or you're in your early 20s. There is no such thing as it's too late. And I've met entrepreneurs and business owners well in their last segment, if that makes sense, and thriving, and tremendous. I only wish at some point I can have an ounce of their success. I mean, it's just so compelling to see and to experience. And so, with that being said, that was enough of a motivator to kind of get over that limitation of thought. And then the pursuit has been in the background, you know, just for a little bit of time. It wasn't something that I was actively pursuing, but it was enough of, let's just call it a sandbox that I was able to, you know, build some castles and learn why they didn't stand up straight up, right? And so there was a pocket of time, if you will, where I understood learning lessons to kind of alter my course, so that way when I knew that the time was right, when I do make the jump full-time and official, you know, with no parachute, that at least it was a calculated jump, right? I'm not jumping into an abyss and not knowing what's down there. At least I kind of know, you know, I've got 15 seconds to pull the ripcord at some point.
Sure. I love that. I think that's very cool, and I love that you obviously kind of set the stage for yourself, you know, did the homework, right, to understand if this was something that was even going to be potentially viable. And then you took the leap, right? Like, obviously there's going to be unknowns in every aspect of life, right? And the fact that you wanted to pursue it because you didn't want to have that regret later on in life that you didn't try it. And I think that that's so poignant, because oftentimes I think people are scared of that unknown and to take that leap, and you've done it, right? And obviously every single day is a grind, right? It's not like all of a sudden, you know, you've jumped off the ledge and now you're flying, you know what I mean? It's like you swoop down, you're coming close to the ground, but then boof, you know, you catch some good wind and you're back up in the air. And I think that's determination, resilience, you know, discipline, all of these things that we've already kind of talked about. But I love that what you did was you started out Five Moss as I believe, as 5 minutes of security, which was your kind of your little video segment, podcast segment that you were doing on LinkedIn, which I found so cool. When I remember you did like your first ones, and I was just like, bro, Yes, like good job, man. These are fantastic, well
Goofy
produced.
looking guy out here.
No, dude, they were really great. And I mean, was that kind of the launch pad for you to start Five Moss? Was even just kind of going down that path? Is that what the name is? I believe
It very much was. 100% it was. Yeah. So Five Moss started off as videos, and it was really just an experiment. People talk about posting on social media, that attention is currency. I comprehended the concept, but I didn't understand the concept personally. And so I felt like, what do I got to lose? Let me just post a video. So, and I think my very first video, I had on a denim jean jacket. The lighting was horrible. The video quality was even worse. And I think my mic was probably like a football field away from my mouth. And so like it was such a horrible setup. I mean, recipe for failure, right? But the video got posted, and maybe there's some sense of like relatability with that. I don't know, but it caught attention.
Yeah. And
the comments and the DMs were eye-opening. And so I felt like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I want to keep going to see and understand what it is, because I have no idea. It's just this one video.
Sure.
So I think consistently over the course of just a couple of years, it was a constant video post every week. It was just nonstop every week.
Yeah, you were consistent with it. And just literally, and 5 Minutes of Security was a video series that you were talking about. You were literally taking 5 minutes to talk about some security-based topic in the industry. Sometimes, technology related, product related, whatever it was, but you always had something cool to talk about. And I think that's the consistency is certainly something that is very important to do if you want to continue to grow, in your own self, right? Being consistent, going to the gym, waking up every morning and doing your ice plunge, right? But also with doing videos and stuff, right? Building your brand, you got to be consistent, and that's something that I'm, trying to learn myself. But I love that you just started out with this idea, something that was, jean jacket idea, and look where you are today, man. Now you're wearing Chanel jacket.
No.
But it's Coach jacket, and it's so cool, man, because I think that you are. Again, you're a legend. That's what makes you a legend, right? Is somebody who's just out there, trying to push the limits of what you believe you're capable of. And I want to understand, like, around you, and you talked about kind of immigrating or, refugee immigration to this country, which I love. I think those people are some of the best people on the planet, because they are coming from nothing, and somehow they manage to just rise to the top, right? And you've done that, man. But what do you think about, like, I have to imagine you probably maybe catch some shade from people, like maybe being jealous of what you're up to. So how do you combat that, or what is that like?
Yeah, it's a great question, and those elements, they're gonna exist, especially if you're pursuing anything that is outside of the norm, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, and everyone has their own reasons. What's important, at least for me, what I've learned over time, is that as long as you're able to accept quietness, you don't have to explain what you're doing to those, justifying. When you can get to a place where you feel congruent with that idea of not having to justify, you really feel like you don't have to justify, it's a sign that you are on a mission.
Yes. And
that's what's going to continue to allow you to thrive. Because if the end goal is simply, I want to go make, I want to go make a buck, you're going to be able to do that. Like, the money's going to come. That's not easy. That's not hard to attain. But once you attain, that end goal, then what? Like, what's going to keep you going? And so there's got to be this idea of something so much greater than that, and those are the visions and the stories that you don't necessarily have to share. You don't have to put that out there. You don't have to feel like you have to justify it. And as long as you're comfortable with being truthful in your pursuit, it'll mute out the external voices, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I heard is, you're on your path. We all are, right? We're all on this journey called life. We all know where it ends, right? And so you gotta do with what you can in the time that you have. But you have found a way to just kind of tune out the noise, right? Like, because there's always going to be noise. There's always going to be people, trying to hate on you, trying to get what you have, right? Jealousy, whatever it is, right? It's always going to exist, and it's just you have to tune it out and focus on your path. I think is what I heard you say, which I love, man. And one thing that you had told, we've talked about this topic so many times over the years, and I love it because we always come up with new nuggets and just ways of looking at things. But one thing that you said that really stood out to me one time is that you said, because I was like, what makes you different? Like, why, how are you accomplishing these things when other people aren't able to? Or, what is that? What is the secret sauce? And you said, I just want it more than the next guy. And I thought that was so cool because it's true. You have to wake up with that desire to want it more than the next guy, because there's always going to be somebody better than you in something, in some area. But that doesn't matter, right? They could be better at you, but they're not putting in the work to get there. You know what I mean? And so it's like you're doing that. And I think that's, I don't know, that was just something cool that stood out to me, bro. And I love that you said that.
Yeah, I never felt like I had many talents. I don't feel like there was ever anything that I was super talented in. In high school, I was a horrible runner. You don't want to catch me on the basketball court because it's saddening, right? And forget swimming. I mean, I'm the first one to drown. I mean, throw me the buoy. So I was never very talented at anything, but I've always felt like I could put in enough work and at least somewhat kind of be near the mix. I'm not probably in the mix, but somewhat near enough where at least I can have some proximity and see the game a little bit, if that makes any sense, right? Yeah. And so, just a constant grind to me is really important, because where you don't have talent where others do, I'm a big believer that hard work will prevail. So where talent is not gonna, back you up when you need it most, the repetition, the discipline to do things consistently, you're building the muscle memory to where when you need it and depend on it, that muscle memory is there to kick in. And so I'm a big believer that hard work will go a long ways. And so for me, just kind of a simple concept. My dad's been doing it forever and a day, and so I think just naturally, just observing that and being a huge inspiration for me in my life, it's something that I try to apply. So
I love that, man. I think that's absolutely accurate, right? You just have to do the hard work when you don't want to do it, because that hard work is going to pay off. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but
that's right.
Time and time again, we see the proof in the pudding, right? Like, man, I remember when I was a kid and I sucked at basketball too, right? But for Christmas, I got this awesome, breakaway hoop, right? It's one of those, fill water, fill with sand, and then you can lower it, raise it up.
Absolutely.
You can dunk on it, right?
I had one of those.
And I lived in Montana. It was the middle of the winter. It's Christmas. I got this as a Christmas gift. I got home the next day, set that thing up. The driveway's covered in snow. I shoveled it off. It's icy. It's cold outside. But I just played, man.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just because I wanted to get good at basketball. And then I was able to join, the basketball team because I finally could, hit three-pointers, and I could finally figure out how to do a layup. It was cold. I didn't want to go outside, but there was something in me that wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and also prove to myself that I could join that team, right? And so, even though you don't want to do the hard work, it's going to pay off, and again, it's just time and time again. You've proven that to yourself. So remember that, right? When you may feel like you don't want to get out of bed and do the things that are going to be hard, do it, because you're going to thank yourself at the end of the day because you did that.
Yeah, because it's the collection of the consistency is what amounts to big things, big changes, the end results. And it's very quick to want the idea of whatever we're pursuing now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the perfect world. Like there's stuff that I want right now. I can't have it, at least not yet. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work. But I do believe that those things are absolutely already mine. It's just a matter of time, right? For time and the attainment to match itself up, and then the physicality becomes real. But the consistency of just doing the things that you need to do, again, that's a choice. And as long as that choice is made consistently, that is what creates the discipline muscle. And that discipline muscle is really what's going to drive you.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's all about exercising those muscles and building yourself up to, at the end of the day, when you're old and you're just like, man, bro, you're not that old, man. What are you, like 60? That's not old. No,
65.
Dude. Yeah. Okay. So I love what we're talking about here, because it's so valuable to everybody, right? Like, I mean, there's nobody on this planet that can't benefit from just looking within themselves, finding that determination, whatever they're dealing with, right? But just pick yourself up and go pursue whatever it is that you want, right? And start small, right? Start with little videos, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Start small. Go out and play basketball in the snow, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, just do it. I do have a question for you, and
Sure.
and I'm curious about this, because we talked about this right before the podcast. How important is mentorship to you?
It's very important. When you look towards the sky, it's like there are stars up there. It's hard to actually see them exactly, and if you can be fortunate enough to get a telescope that can allow you to see some sense of closeness, then there's probably more to that. But the idea of like a North Star, if you have something that you would like to pursue, it doesn't have to be clear. That's essentially the concept of a North Star, right? You don't need to necessarily have all your I's dotted, T's crossed. You don't have to have all the exact plans that you need to execute to achieve it. And I think oftentimes it's easy to get to that place of not understanding the recipe,
Right.
And then just giving up entirely. It's an easy thing to do. Mentors, for me, have continued to provide milestones that gets me closer to my North Star, right? And so they typically have the experience mixed together with my vision to understand where my gaps might lie, because they've navigated, to the North Star already, and they've came back. And so, they have this idea of what that journey might look like, whether that's entrepreneurship or, anything that you're trying to pursue in life in general. I think it is important to have mentors around you of those that have achieved that state, because they're going to have the pockets and the nuggets, as you've mentioned, of ideas and concepts that you're going to need when it gets tough. And I promise you, it will be tough, and it's not easy, and it's not always fun. And oftentimes the total sum of all those activities that you grind out on a day-to-day basis, they're not fun.
Not usually, no.
They're usually not. But again, this is why it's so important to have a demanding purpose, and you've got to be real with that purpose, beyond material matters. There's got to be something that's really, really driving you out there, and because that's going to get you to wake up. And your mentors are going to help tell you, need you to wake up on the left side, not the right side. Right. And that's why they're important to have.
I like that. That's a good answer. I have recently started a mentorship program through Toastmasters.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's fantastic because now I am the mentor. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
But it's also it's a little bit of pressure, but I feel confident because I have all this experience with, and it's all very Toastmasters centric, but oftentimes it splays out into, real world situations as well. And, it doesn't mean that you have to be older than that, than your mentee, right? I have a mentee who's older than I am, right? But we can kind of give each other feedback on things. And so it doesn't have to be like this hierarchical thing, I think, when it comes to mentorship, right? Like, obviously you're trying to help them navigate and help them achieve their goals, but, also it has to be a two-way street. And I found so much value in not only being a mentee, but being a mentor. And so the reason I asked that question is I want to encourage anybody out there who's thinking that they don't need a mentor or don't know how to get one. Go get one, right? And I think that it's so important to your everyday life, your success in business, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Find yourself a coach or find yourself a mentor, because you're always going to need somebody to have your back, somebody to bounce ideas off of. And so that's why I brought that up, man. But I was curious what your thoughts were on mentorship, and I feel like you probably had multiple mentors in your lifetime.
Many growing up. I think from what I can recall, my first mentors were right out of high school. There was a pocket of about 5 of us. We were straight out of high school. We just got our IT certification. It was kind of like a big thing back then. And there wasn't many high schoolers in the industry that actually had this certification. And we were brought on by a very big corporate tech company to come in and run this operational environment. And it was such a great story to tell, marketing wise as well.
Sure.
Look at these, students that came out of this academy, they obtained a certification, and now they're in a corporate environment running an extremely big entity in terms of their operational center. It's a great story. It was then that I had my first exposure, I would say, to what a mentor can provide you. And at the time, it was a technical mentor. He helped me to understand, concepts of the industry and where my gaps were in my assumptions and my understanding. And so, over time, that mentorship starts to bleed into areas of life. And as that occurs, you will naturally come up with questions that you're probably not going to have answers for. And if mentorship has helped you in that short period or whatever experience that you've had, naturally you're probably going to seek it, and you'll seek those that might have the answer. And so I also believe that having a mentor also keeps you grounded. Right?
Yes.
I think it's really easy to be obsessed with the things that we believe we must attain or must achieve. But there's a balance there, and the balance also brings you back to a sense of actuality, and I think that's important. And mentorship can quickly do that. And so, it's kind of like what you said, someone to have your back. To me, that concept is about having someone that can maintain some sense of neutrality.
Yes.
In your mindset, right?
Yeah.
Can offer that. And so that's always a good thing to have.
I love that. I think that's, well said, my friend. Well said. You always got the answers, buddy. Man. No, it's
I'm feeding off of you. You got the energy.
Dude, boom. You're just coming at me with these nuggets of wisdom, bro. All right, let's cruise over to, I want to know a little bit more about the fun personal side of Sophat as well. I mean, I know the fun side of you. We've gotten to spend a lot of time together doing really fun, amazing things, traveling for work and just hanging out as friends. But what are you into like right now when you're not on the grind, when you're not, focused on work or focused on projects? What are you doing to unwind? I mean, whatever it is, what do you find yourself passionately trying to make time to go do because you enjoy it so much?
I think this is probably just something as I've become more, mature in age, but maybe not mature in personality.
We know, yeah. No, we'll be old and gray, and we'll still be cracking jokes and laughing at farts. Man.
I will still sport my joggers. I love my joggers. I can't break away from those. As funny as it may sound, and as boring as it may sound, we grew up in our household with golf clubs. My dad works for a company called Karsten Ping.
Yes.
And we always had clubs growing up around the house, and it was somewhat pushed on us, so I didn't have a good experience with golf. I always felt like it was a chore, much like doing dishes. So I didn't grow up liking golf.
Wow.
But as business became more a part of my life, and being in a corporate setting, I understood the value of golf being a platform to build relationships on, to transact on.
Yes.
And as you get into golf with that purpose, it still has its newness and funness, if you will, right? Because typically, if you're out there doing business, I mean, you're spending your time out there to spend time with someone in order to to be able to transact and to build relationships. You're probably not all that great at golf.
Not fully vested in the game.
Yeah,
but
and that's okay.
Yeah,
but that's
absolutely.
okay. That there's a commonality there. So I've gotten to the point now where it's become somewhat of an obsession, and I feel like I'm kind of like an amateur, TikTok connoisseur. Like I go through the reels. I'm literally trying to consume every tips and tricks and tidbits to really fix my obnoxiously ugly golf swing. But it's such a humbling sport because it's extremely difficult. You're hitting this, small ball, and most of the time you're hitting the big ball, which is earth, right? So I'm really good at that, trust me. But and so being obsessed with golf has allowed me to understand its slight changes and alterations in, say, my sequencing, if you will, that translates into some tremendous results. I think in golf hitting, there's this idea of like hitting a high tight draw. It's like the holy grail, right? In golf, if you do that. And for as long as I've played, I've never been able to do that ever. Never, right? But it was a pursuit, and it required a lot of physicality and changes and athleticism, which I do not have. But understanding the logic and the sequence of the body movement to create as close as possible that outcome of a high draw really drove me nuts, and I had to get to that place. And when I did, it also affected all the other parts of my game, and that's what made golf really enjoyable for me. So as boring as this sounds, it's something that I've found enjoyment in.
No, I mean, you're in Arizona, so I think it's probably
it's a golf
the
mecca.
the most popular sport here. Maybe, well, I don't know. I think pickleball might be taking over.
Oh God,
have you tried pickleball yet?
I love pickleball.
Yes.
So much fun.
Okay.
So much fun.
I've played once. I loved it. I haven't played yet. I'm waiting for the heat to die down a little bit more, but I can't wait to get back out there because it's a blast.
It really is.
I had such a fun time.
Meet some great people out there.
Yeah. Another just kind of fun question. Yeah. Do you have a sweet tooth or a salt tooth? I've actually never heard anybody call it a salt tooth, but it's a thing now.
Maybe savory.
Yeah, savory. Do you like sweet or salty or savory?
I prefer savory.
Okay.
But when savory is in excess, I tend to lean towards sweet.
Sure, to balance it, right? We talked about balance.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I don't like, I gotta have my dessert before my dinner. Like I can. It's not something that I need or like desire. But at the same time, I don't really need dessert or anything sweet.
Yeah.
When it's there and it's enjoyable, absolutely. Like, count me in.
Okay. Well, we're coming up on Halloween, right? So, yes. assuming you're going to have Halloween candy, either
do.
your kids are going to go trick or treat or you're going to hand it out or both.
Correct.
Are you going to dig into the bowl or are you going to
I do.
abstain?
I am so I am guilty of that. I am guilty of probably sending kids with some empty wrappers.
Whoops, my bad.
I don't mean to do that. I am really sorry. But there's just something about certain candies that there's an itch that I'll scratch.
What's your go-to candy?
Oh man, Almond Joy coconut.
Oh man, I feel like
with the almond on top.
Almond Joy kind of fell off the map a little bit.
It's an old school treat.
That is,
it's super old school. You find it in just about every Halloween.
That's true. That's true.
Candy bag that you can get anywhere, any grocery store, and
it's
probably the one that my two kids hate the most. But it's
that works out perfectly. Then that works out perfectly. Okay, all right, that's awesome. Well, I also wanted to. So I don't want to miss this opportunity to try this, but I picked up these Oreo Coke zero sugar drinks. So it's Coke that's Oreo flavored, and I wouldn't want to try this with anybody else. I've never had this before. Have you tried this?
I've heard a lot about this, and I've seen reels on TikTok where people keep talking about it. So I'm actually really excited to try this.
And now the one caveat I will have to say, it's not cold. I got it off the shelf.
That's okay.
And I'm a little worried that they're not chilling it, that it's not selling well. And so they're just like, we're not even using the fridge space to sell this, but I do want to try it. So bro, let's go ahead and crack it open. We'll do the nice.
Oh, wow. It's got a nice little
nice
pop to it.
That nice Coke crack. Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers to you,
and take a sip, and then we'll give it a review.
A little reaction.
Oh man, I'm scared.
Oh my God! Wow.
Okay. What are your thoughts? First sip.
Oh my God.
What would you say?
High school. You know what that reminds me of? A protein shake.
Really?
I used to drink those protein shakes, like the chocolate protein shakes. It has a little bit of that aftertaste to me.
You're right. Actually, it does. I definitely get the chocolate in there. I'm not really getting the Oreo.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Full flavor. I'm basically I'm kind of just getting chocolate Coke.
Chocolate. Yeah, there you go. That's what it tastes like.
I'm not getting the cream.
It's chocolate Coke. That's exactly it.
It says it's cookie flavored, but I mean, you could call this a chocolate chip cookie Coca-Cola.
I feel like if you just kind of put a black sticker over that Oreo label, and just said, drink this.
What cookie does this taste like? I don't think anybody would be like, oh yeah, that's Oreo.
No, exactly. I'm glad I tried it though.
I am glad. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it because I can't say that it's.
You're looking a little nervous over there.
I don't know. I was expecting to really taste the flavor of an Oreo.
Do you
jelly.
like Oreos?
I do like Oreos. I actually love Oreos. Here's a good question for you. Are you a twister and a licker? I don't know how else to put it. Or maybe you slide it against your teeth or whatever. But or do you eat the whole cookie as one entity?
I'm boring. I like a cup of milk. I dunk in the milk to soften the bite.
Yeah,
to soften the bite.
Okay.
I don't know why that just works for me. It's it's a weird thing.
Nice soft cookie, yeah.
And I just go as is. So yeah, I don't do the twisting or the alternative. Yeah.
You don't do the licking?
I don't do the licking.
You're not a licker. All right. That's something new I didn't know about you. That's good to know.
I feel like I'm already violating my cookie by dipping it in milk, so no need to go any further.
That is very nostalgic. Man, I can't remember the last time I dipped a cookie in milk. And it makes me want to try that again because it's been so long.
Everyone on this podcast listening, try it out.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know, we drink almond milk now. We don't do a lot of dairy milk anymore, but man, I miss that. I might have to get some just to try.
Or just almond milk, that'll work too.
Yeah, I know, but there's something
about milk.
Very nostalgic. I don't know. It's real cow milk I'm down with it, but almond milk's better for my
absolutely.
I'm with
insides,
you on that one. But yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, man, I just want to give you an opportunity quickly to talk about Five Moss and kind of what you guys are up to.
Sure.
Let us know what you guys are doing, what products you have out there, I want to give you an opportunity to plug Five Moss, man, because it's a fantastic company.
Is this where the shameless plug comes in?
That's right. That's right.
Appreciate you. So we're a consulting group focused predominantly on cybersecurity from an advisory standpoint. And so where we spend our time with our customers is really understanding where the gaps lie as they're already consuming services or they've already purchased products that they've deployed and consumed. But there's no shortage of why is this still not working, which just seems to be the feedback, consistently. I've never believed that there's an easy answer for that.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to quickly think of an alternative idea, such as an alternative product or an alternative service. Sure. But until you are willing to roll up your sleeves and be a part of how these technologies are consumed or the problems that a client is experiencing, it's very difficult to understand the intricate details on what the core root issue is. And so what we do in Five Moss is we engage at an advisory level to really understand what the real pain points are. And the way that we are able to mitigate those gaps is we provide the output in the form of a service. And so, for example, we have clientele that have consumed a managed security services offering, right? So it's kind of like an alternative to building out your security operational center. Right? It's a heavy investment, and so outsourcing it makes financial sense.
Sure.
In doing that, there's an idea that the managed provider will essentially do the care and feeding of assessing alerts and events. But what clients are having to experience is the tapping on the shoulder in order to do something with those alerts still.
Yes. Yeah. It's the alerts are great, the monitoring is great, but if there's no action behind it, then you're still as vulnerable as you were before you hired this service. Right?
100%. 100%. Yeah. Now, in the landscape of a client environment, they might not have a tier 1 analyst that can do that initial response. It might be the network admin, or it might be the security engineer. It might and they've got a plate full of 30 projects that they're juggling, and so we come into play. And we'll help solve that, and we can provide that in many different formats, whether that is an outsourced model, or we can come in as pure advisors. So some of our clients have the engine, if you will, right, to move the vehicle, but they're missing the directional rudder, if you will, right, to kind of steer the boat. And so we can be that for them, and oftentimes that's consumed in the form of an advisory. And so we do have platforms that we provide. These are platforms that we have custom built off of some open source stack and some commercial stacked platforms as well. But we've built our own flavor that we feel really solves a particular problem. It's not really unique because it seems like most clients kind of run into the same issue, and that is, adhering to a set of standards or frameworks. It's not fun. It's laborious. It's not exciting.
Sure.
But it's also activities that need to be done because the collective of that over time reduces the likelihood that your company might experience something pretty significant, like a significant event. And so those are the things that we do, right? We engage at a very, very deep level. And we have a number of partners that leverage us specifically for those services. We've been extremely grateful. Super blessed to be working with the handful of customers that we have thus far. That's kind of gotten us on the map. Awesome. We're really excited about 2025 in terms of the outlook and what we're going to be doing differently. And so, man, I wake up every day just grateful and blessed to be able to do what I'm doing, man. It's a tremendous feeling.
Man, saving the world.
One event at a time.
That's right. That's right.
One security alert at a time.
That's right. Hey, man, it's got to happen. Otherwise, you're vulnerable. And it's crazy. It's rampant out there, right?
It really is.
It's ramping up, too.
Ramping up.
It's 2025 will be, even worse from a threat landscape than it was this year. So the fact that you guys are out there, putting in the work to help, organizations stay protected, and continuing to be reactive is important. Sorry, not reactive, proactive is important. And are you guys a boutique shop? Are you enterprise ready? Are you somewhere in between? What?
Yeah, great question. So we feel like we're right in between, and so we have clienteles that are startups. We have clientele that are kind of mid market, and we have some very large enterprises, extremely large. And so the way that we deliver our service, it really does scale across industries and across business sectors. And that's just kind of the beauty of the way that we've built out both our platform and then the way that we deliver our service. And so there is no one size fits all. It's really, for us, it's about understanding our client. And I know that sounds cliche, but it really is about us getting in there and understanding the actual pain point, right? And being a partner to help you to kind of mitigate and solve those in a long-term fashion, right? It's not an immediate fix. We're not trying to come in and put a bandage on the bleed. We're actually trying to go in and make sure that it's actually healing properly and that it doesn't become a vulnerability at some point in time, right? No pun intended, but that's something we pride ourselves on.
No, that's fantastic. Well said, my friend. Well said.
Appreciate you.
I love what you guys are doing. And how can people find you guys? I presume you have I know you have a fantastic website. But yeah, give us a little plug on where they can find you and contact you.
Yeah, so our website is 5mos.ai, and it's just the number 5, so it's numeral 5 and then mos.ai. You can learn a little bit about our company and our offering and what we do there. So, feel free to check that out. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to connect with me. So just Sophat Chev on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's one Sophat Chev here in Arizona. So
yeah,
I don't know.
You're the only one I've met, man. And you're one of a kind, brother. You're one of a kind.
Yeah. Pretty awkward, right?
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. Well, that wraps it up, man. We are at time, bro. But so much thanks and appreciation for your friendship and just giving us so many amazing things to talk about today, bud. It was such a great conversation. So we should definitely do this again.
100%.
And yeah, aside from that, welcome to the Legends Club.
Yes.
You are part of the Legends Club.
Tremendous.
And
absolutely.
Definitely looking forward to having more podcasts. So make sure you guys, like, subscribe, share the channel, tell your friends about us. And if you have a legend that you think should be on this show, please reach out. Again, legends are everyday people just doing great things. So remember, guys, stay legendary. We'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.
See ya.